Now that we've got our procedure up and running and we've done all of these tests, the next step is to add one complete user. So we're actually going to do an insert statement. Insert into, and what are we going to insert into? We're inserting into the user one table, right? And we're going to be adding values and open that with the paren. And now we want to list all the values to insert into the table. And what we're going to be inserting are the values that were sent to the procedure, except the phone number. The phone number is not part of the user. So I'm going to capture all of these values and put it down here. And now we have all of them that we need, all the values that we need. But we don't need types, we only need the values. So I'm going to subtract all of the types, leave the commas, because we need commas to separate the values. And end with a closing parenthesis and a semicolon. And that ends our list of values. To the insert into the table these values. Let's execute that to save that stored procedure and then go back and test it. And here's one of our users that is supposed to work, so let's cross our fingers and hope that it does. And sure enough, it says one row affected, that user has now been entered to the database. Let's try another user that doesn't work. So here I'm going to change the number, and I'm still going to just play with this same user, but I'm going to add a problem here. So this is something that we didn't test, so let's execute this. Oh, student needs to have a major. We did test that one. Notice how it's working. That's awesome. All right, now what we got was an error related to something that the database does check. So the database does have this check constraint to make sure that the types are correct. And IAS is not a valid type. And so here I have the database specifying that there was an error. And we want to circumvent this. We want to go ahead and be in charge of what error messages are explained and not use the system ones. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to put the insert statement actually inside a try-catch block. And the way that we do that is we begin a try, and this is where there might be an error. And then when we're past that point where there might be an error, we go ahead and end the try, and then we begin the catch. And then in here we can do things and end the catch. And what this allows us to do then is this allows us to choose what happens when there's an error. So in here's the insert statement, and it may produce errors that we have not tested for, but that the database management system is testing for. And so we can say, well, when that happens, we're okay if that happens, but when that happens, I want to use my message, right? And say, okay, there was an error, and user was not entered. So user was not added to the database. And that reports the error back the way that we want it. And so we have this try-catch capability. Let's execute that, and that will update that procedure. And then let's go back and try this again and see what happens. And there, now we've actually produced our own error. We've said this is what we want to have happen. We don't want it to shut down. We want to know that it hasn't happened. And we've taken control of what happens when something goes wrong in that insert statement.